We need to, as female leaders, tap into those resources that are, in some sense, we're the bearers of the next generation. So there's something innate in us about wanting the future to be good for our kids and our grandkids.
Exactly, yeah.
We need to get better at that. And we shouldn't apologize ever for using words like love or compassion or any of those things. Maybe our organizations and society have been set up to respond to those, but let's change them and look at things differently in terms of who we are as women leaders creating a vision for the future.
Welcome to The Scaries, brought to you by Raise Her Co. I'm Sky.
And I'm Talitha. We are proudly broadcasting from Treaty 4 territory in Regina, and in each episode we tackle the alarming, inconceivable, questionable, shocking, and scary statistics relating to, impacting, and intervening with the lives of women and girls worldwide.
You'll hear the scary truth, take away tools and tips, and learn about what you can do about it. And The Scaries is an opportunity to use our voices as women and supporters of women to make real change in our communities. So, as always, the opinions on this episode are solely our own. It's for entertainment purposes only, and we could be sharing some content that could be triggering to you, so please listen with caution.
As straight, cisgender, white, able-bodied settler women, we are aware of the privilege that we have, and we want to use this platform to spread awareness about the scary reality that women from around the world face in different life situations.
Why?
Because sometimes nothing is scarier than being a woman. Hello, another week.
Hello.
Another episode of The Scaries again.
I feel like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Hello. If you are watching this on YouTube, you will notice that we're still in the same outfits that we have been.
It's like we live here. It's like we never leave. It's kind of true.
Here. We're still hanging out with Josh, our buddy, who has provided us with some sustenance tonight in the form of Cabernet Sauvignon.
He's quite lovely, I must say. I'd enjoy his company.
Of all the men to hang out with, you know?
I would pick this Josh.
Josh, we will pick you. As always, please drink responsibly and only drink if you are of age. However, we do love a little bit of Josh, or, you know, any vino, just to get the creative juices flowing. So when we chat about Raise Her Co., the organization, obviously, that is behind this and that allows us to do the Scaries, we discuss the concept of intergenerational leadership. It's paramount to what we do and how we move through the world. And it's the name of this episode. But what the heck do we mean when we say intergenerational leadership? For us, intergenerational leadership is all about meaningful engagement between people across generations. Though putting labels on generations can be overly simplistic and stereotypically driven, it still holds some value because we are all shaped by our common experiences of our time. I know Skylar and I talk a lot about being influenced by the 90s and the girl power era, and that definitely has influence on us in terms of, you know, socially, politically, economically, and environmentally. We are consciously aware of the different generations, and we want to recognize the opportunities for partnerships and collaboration.
Totally. And as a continuation, really, like we said in the last episode around mentorship and leadership are really one and the same, especially when we think about the idea of intergenerational mentorship. So we'll be discussing today the concept a little bit deeper around leadership, more in depth, and we'll be doing another fun conversation with our two favorite people, our very own built-in mentors and leaders, our mamas. So you'll be excited to hear from them once again. And as we shared in the last episode, we shared their bios and their leaders and all the background about how they've come up in their own industries. And we've had the privilege of having them in our lives from day one. So go back and listen to that last episode around mentorship for more of the details, because these episodes really are kind of a two-parter.
They are. Yeah, they go hand in hand. And I think, as always, as we like to define things and set the stage, it's important to clarify what we mean by leadership. In a lot of the literature and widely stated in businesses across the world, leadership is defined by your job title. So it's defined by being in a managerial position or in a position of authority or power or the C-suite. But that's not the case for us.
No, and I'm sure I'll just chime in and note, like, I don't think I'm alone in that. I can think of not just one, but several people in my career, in my life that have been in so-called leadership positions that aren't actually someone myself or anyone else really wanted to follow. We didn't really have the choice.
Yeah.
You feel like you just have to follow them because they're in that position of power or authority.
Yeah.
But really, we want to that's why we want to move away from the association of leadership with your status or job title, because a true leader has followers who are compelled and inspired to follow them because they want to, not because they have to. That is the difference.
Yeah, the key. They want to.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. And we take the lead. See what we did there. From thought leaders and scholars like Simon Sinek and Brené Brown, who suggest that leadership isn't defined by status or hierarchy, as Skylar said, but rather by the responsibility of empowering those you lead to succeed. A leader is anyone who takes responsibility for finding the potential in people and processes and who has the courage to develop that potential. Mm-hmm. Everyone can be a leader. Everyone has it in them at any age, at any job level, and you don't need to wait for a certain achievement or milestone to be a leader. You don't need to wait till you get your degree or you wait till you get that next, certificate or anything. You can be one right now.
And it's funny, we often ask this question in a lot of our training and workshops that we do. And we say, are you a leader? Do you see yourself as a leader? And a lot of people say, no. Yeah. How could I be a leader? I'm not a leader.
Don't
I'm not qualified.
Yeah.
You often think you need to be a leader in a academic field, as in you need to really be knowledgeable a certain field. It's not about what you know. It's about how you share what you know and, how you build up other people to broaden what they know. Mm-hmm. So I think a great way to think about your own leadership path is think about your lived experience. Mm-hmm. We're all qualified in one way or another because we've all worn so many different hats or roles throughout our lives, whether it's you're a sibling or a parent or you've been part of a team or you played on a band. There's so many different roles we play, maybe all of those. And in one of those instances, at least one of them, someone else has watched you or you've taught someone something. They've learned from you. You've supported them. You've inspired them in a way that has made them want to do the same for other people. They've learned from you. They become better as a result of working alongside you or with you. That's leadership.
Yeah.
It's leadership, baby.
That's leadership, baby. I would also add, I know that folks like Brené Brown talk about grit. And so it's not just things that you succeeded in, it's things that you have overcome and had resilience through as well. Because you learn from those things.
Totally.
That old saying, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. I feel like that's also a Kelly Clarkson song or something.
Totally it is. I got it in my brain right now.
Yeah,
it doesn't kill you, makes it stronger.
Exactly. If anyone would like to sign Skylar to a record deal, we are open.
I'm up for that.
She's open to it.
Yeah.
But it's also about those struggles that you go through too, that you have the lived experience of what did you learn from it and how do you grow.
Yeah. And then who watched you go through those struggles, who then saw you come out the other side more resilient, more strong, and better as a result. So really, I guess the biggest piece about leadership, true leadership, is that it's intentional though. You won't be a leader if you don't actually want to help other people.
Yeah.
So it has to be kind of an intentional, service-focused act. And intentionally helping women and girls develop those leadership skills is really what Race Circle specifically is rooted in and really why we exist. So how do we do it? We do it, and there's many ways that you can be a leader, but in our way, we do this by advocating for equitable rights and opportunities for women and girls. We attend and collaborate with community groups who focus also on developing and enhancing the well-being for women and girls. We do awareness and advocacy events, marches, activism campaigns, and really we just use our voice or our platform and our privilege to amplify the voices of others, and to use our voice and speak up to things when other people don't feel that they can, and they're not in a position of privilege to do that. So that's what we do. We also do collaborative leadership skill building programming, like our camp and our project-based mentorship program. We have corporate and community education, like I mentioned, and training. We do all kinds of things. We're a jack of all trades. And of course, we do the scariest, our favorite part.
One of them. Favorite parts. This is where Skylar gets to practice her singing and
wait for more.
Yeah.
So that's a little history lesson of why this episode and the last episode are tied together and why there's two, because this is the root of what makes us tick.
Totally.
So first, as we always do, let's dig into a little bit more about the scary statistics that typically prevent or challenge women from exercising their leadership skills. Yeah. So young girls encounter a maze of societal barriers masquerading as norms, stealthily steering them away from envisioning themselves as leaders. But fear not, these barriers are not insurmountable mountains. They're hurdles we can collectively obliterate. Ooh. And the time is now.
Obliterate. I love just seeing blow up. Let's blow this shit up.
So what are the barriers? And I think there's a lot of stuff out there, the parenting books and all kinds of things that are already teaching us how to deal with these, but let's break them down. So first on the chopping block is socialization. Or like gender norms.
Yeah.
Despite evidence suggesting girls possess the same leadership potential as boys, straight up, social conditions molds their perceptions from a very young age and their capabilities. From the toys we play with to the clothes we wear, society bombards women with archaic stereotypes, pigeonholing them into roles like caregivers and hostesses. I will say boys also have very strict gender roles as well, that are still alive and well. But
like today, that they like must be the provider and the protector and like all
and
of
they
those
can't
things.
cry and they can't be nurturing and they can't be soft and they can't have emotions.
And they can't,
and we'll get into that in another episode. But today we're talking about the girls. So
this one's for the gals.
I mean, and we think about toys and things like that. Barbie, obviously, as we know and we love, she's donned every conceivable career that exists, but studies really still reveal a disturbing trend that girls who play with Barbies, be it a fashionista Barbie or an MD Barbie, tend to narrow their career aspirations compared to those playing with Mrs. Potato Head toys.
What?
Yeah.
Mrs. Potato Head.
Yeah.
She's the one setting the stage.
Which kind of... I'm surprised because she still has like all her girly accessories. And
she's also defined by like being Mr. Potato Head's wife.
And she doesn't have jobs.
No.
Does she? I didn't have that. I mean, I had that toy, but I don't remember having
I feel like she's a wife.
Anyway, I don't know about that. But anyway, that's what the stats say. So how do we shatter these ingrained gender norms that shepherd women's minds towards predetermined careers, characteristics, and color preferences? We all know these things, right? Yeah. It's hard to find any girl clothes that are brown or that are, dark green or any of the boy colors, blue. Everything is pink and purple and sparkle. So the toys and their attire are just pieces of a larger puzzle encompassing family dynamics, peer influence, community standards, and the scaffolding of social, cultural, and educational systems. But there is hope. Parents can empower their children to dissect and challenge these norms from a very early age. And adults too. We must scrutinize our own biases and actively foster girls' self-assurance. Instead of complimenting them, for example, on their appearance constantly, let's shift the focus to those inner qualities and, dare we suggest, celebrate their leadership potential instead.
I'm laughing because Skylar got to the studio tonight and Skylar walked in and saw that my son had makeup all over his face because he was playing with makeup. He was watching Mommy get ready. And I'm like, yeah, no, do it. It's okay.
Yeah. Experiment. Why not?
Break down those socializations. Okay, so tell me about obstacle number 2.
Obstacle number 2 is media representation, and this is a biggie, and it always has been. So while there's been some strides in portraying women and girls in the media and how they're portrayed to be not just sex symbols, to be honest, or symbols of the wife or the mom.
Yeah.
The landscape still predominantly casts them, though, into these stereotypical supporting roles, perpetuating the notion that they exist primarily to bolster or follow male leaders. Even in the colorful world of cartoons, female characters find themselves outnumbered by male counterparts, particularly in those cartoons that are adventure driven, like, for example, Paw Patrol. I can't believe that. Like, my daughter's a big watcher of Paw Patrol, and it still has like 2 girl dogs, and the rest are boys.
What color are their outfits?
Pink and purple.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
We wouldn't know if they were a girl otherwise.
Right.
So.
I mean, a lot of shows targeted to girls are like a lot of all girl casts and that thing and that stuff. But the ones that are more gender neutral or just, adventure based or whatever. Yeah. It's like, why is there only 2? I don't know.
Yeah.
If we also look at films, even family films, a decade-long study by Gina Davis, the Gina Davis Institute on Gender in Media, reveals a glaring gender gap, where male lead characters outnumber their female counterparts by a staggering 71.3% to 28%. And that's not
28%?
all. Yeah, 28. That's nuts. And that's not all. This disparity extends to even wider chasms for the 2S LGBTQIA plus leads. I don't know how many shows there are with that, right? Characters of color and those with disabilities.
Yeah.
One, a minute percentage.
I wonder if it's like also that considers, I don't want to say like a regular character, but just like that their identity of being 2S LGBTQIA plus or a person of color or disability is not like what the show is about. And it's just like who they are as a person. And
very true. Very good point. It's often like, this is all about that. You know like this is their sexual orientation. It's not just about, they just happen to be homosexual and be a CEO of a company. Yeah. And that's just
Yeah,
who they are.
It's generally like, this is a movie about two men who are in love and how they deal with being gay. And it's like, well, I mean, I'm sure they have other struggles in their lives too.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's very interesting in itself.
Yeah.
And then when women and girls do grace our screens, they're often reduced to objects in a lot of situations or hypersexualized beings, perpetuating the harmful notion that thinness and beauty are prerequisites for success. Shockingly, more than half of girls aged 6 to 8 believe, this breaks my heart, that their ideal bodies are thinner than their current size. 6 to 8. This fixation on appearance enacts a toll on girls' mental well-being, impacting their performance and even physical abilities. In one study, girls most preoccupied with their looks scored lower on a simple ball-throwing test. The representation or lack thereof of women in media fuels this self-doubt and there cripples their confidence to tackle challenges in life and leadership roles.
We even learned, like, in the finance episode that we just did, that I think it was UCLA or like another Ivy League type school, that when they told girls who were taking a test, if they talked to them about, like, if they told them to think about things like femininity and money, their numbers went down.
Yep.
Like, that's crazy. Anyways.
Yeah. What we say to people, especially women and men, gets to us. So be careful with what you say.
Words have power.
Totally. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Okay. There is a beacon of hope on the horizon. Empowering children to wield media as a tool to shatter stereotypes and cultivate body confidence is there as well. Organizations like Common Sense Media, so Google that, Common Sense Media, offer invaluable guidance in selecting content with positive role models and diverse representation. And let's not forget the Bechdel test. Have you heard of the Bechdel test? If you Google that, you will find this as well. It's a litmus test for films based on whether they feature two named women characters engaging in dialogue that isn't solely about men. So is there a conversation in the movie or show that's not just about two women talking about men? I hope so.
Probably not.
It's a really cool website if you check it out.
Okay, well, I mean, all great news. So maybe now let's tackle obstacle number 3, which is gender bias, our favorite. According to the illuminating study, Leaning Out, Teenage Girls and Leadership Biases from Harvard University's Graduate School of Education, biases against girls as leaders start rearing their heads at the time they hit their teens.
I believe it.
Yep. Shockingly, nearly a quarter of respondents, 23%, preferred male political leaders over their female counterparts. And when it came to business leaders, the numbers weren't much better. Teen boys, in particular, displayed a striking preference for male leaders, with a staggering 40% favoring them over females. Because women are just too emotional and cannot handle it. But it's not just the boys. Even teen girls exhibited a marked bias against female leadership. Only a measly 8% preferred female political leaders, with a whopping 69% expressing no preference whatsoever. Clearly, there's work to be done. The solution? Well, it starts with a collective understanding of how gender inequality permeates our society. But beyond awareness, action is imperative. We must equip girls with the tools and opportunities to cultivate and flex their leadership muscles. After all, leadership isn't a birthright. It's a skill that can be honed and practiced.
Amen.
And now, obstacle number 4. Lack of role models. As girls mature, they can't help but notice the glaring gender imbalances around them, particularly in leadership positions. And these are those kind of leadership positions, quote unquote, that are in managerial positions, C-suite, that sort of thing. Despite similar educational achievements and entry into the workforce, the pipeline to those leadership positions, managerial positions, seems to have a leak, causing many girls to question their suitability or belonging in these roles. Enter mentorship. Right? A beacon of hope for aspiring leaders. According to KPMG, a whopping 82% of professional women believe that exposure to women leaders and networking opportunities can bolster the confidence needed to navigate the path to leadership.
Look at that.
Here we go.
82%.
It's time to bridge the gap between aspiration and attainment by providing girls with access to role models and mentors who can guide them and inspire them.
Let's do it. Couple more. couple more obstacles, I'm sorry to say.
It's never just one.
But
It's
if you think
always
about this,
lots.
right, there's 6, and these aren't just the only 6, but we're going to be going through 6 barriers that prevent women from taking on leadership behaviors. It's just, why? Why so many?
Yeah.
Anyway, the next one is the majority of women just can't see themselves as leaders, point blank. So despite harboring aspirations for senior leadership roles, many women struggle to envision themselves in these positions. Why? Because it's traditional notions of leadership that they often prioritize authority over collaboration. I mean, we see, all the time, those ideas of a leader, and it's all about authority and status and power.
Yeah.
And this perpetuates the myth that leadership is reserved for few, not for many. It's synonymous with power, but it really isn't.
No.
Fear not, though. The Raise Her approach challenges this outdated paradigm by embracing inclusivity, diversity, and empowerment. Leadership, as we shared in the beginning, isn't about commanding from the top. It's about lifting others up, fostering a culture of collaboration and shared success. So let's flip the script on leadership and start conversations at home and in the workplace to redefine what it means to lead. So we can do it now. And it starts from a young age, as we see a lot of these barriers start from just young girls and are perpetuated all the way throughout our life cycle. So
exactly,
this is something to have on top of mind all the time.
Right.
The final obstacle is the motherhood penalty, one we know all too well. And research shows that mothers often face discrimination or limited advancement opportunities in the workplace due to a perceived competency or commitment issues. Commitment issues, really? Just birthed a kid. I'm really having a commitment problem.
Whole human.
Furthermore, societal expectations around caregiving can deter women from pursuing leadership roles, with many anticipating career interruptions as early as middle school. So we haven't seen a lot of examples of workplaces supporting women in their having families. So women are just like, my work's not going to do it. They don't offer me any supports. They haven't told me about any supports, so might as well not even try to work.
Exactly. I'm also just so baffled by the fact that they anticipate, girls start to anticipate career interruptions as early as middle school. They're like, I might as well not try hard because I want to have a kid at this time if they want to or whatever. And I mean, even if they have the foresight to plan for that kind of thing.
I know who's thinking about that when they're, who knows? But it's something we have to think about. We as women have a time clock. And if you want kids, you have to factor that in at a certain point in your life. The solution lies in dismantling the societal bias that prioritizes competition over caregiving. Employers and policymakers must champion flexible work environments, social supports, and policies that recognize and value caregiving contributions. After all, caregiving is not a hindrance to leadership. If you ask me, it makes you a better leader.
100%. You can keep a whole person alive? That's amazing.
What are you doing as a parent if not leading? I don't know. But it's a testament to resilience and strength even more.
Exactly.
So I don't know. The skills I always say, the skills I learned as a mom, I need to put as a whole bucket. Instead of putting gap year for maternity leave, I'm putting these are all the things I did and learned.
Yeah.
How many others can say that they did this?
Exactly.
So speaking of motherhood, we are very excited to chat with our moms once again on, as I mentioned at the beginning, continuation of the last episode, from mentorship to digging into the nitty gritty around leadership, how they got into it. They started in a very different time when leadership was even more of a taboo or a far-fetched idea for women.
Yeah.
And they thrived, and they were moms too.
Yeah.
So let's hear from them.
Let's hear from them.
So on that note, leadership and mentorship are synonymous. If you ask me, they should be this, right? We should focus on that when we think about changing the definition of what a leader is. Yeah. But Mom, what skills do you believe are critical for women specifically to develop to be viewed and respected as leaders in today's world? What are those skills that women need?
I think it's being an awesome coach. I think that really, really caring. Having that authentic sense of really caring for what you're trying to support, how you're trying to support, really authentically caring. You can't be a fake at it. If you're not going to love to do this, it's not going to have a flow for you. It's not going to last. And, I think women particularly can smell a fake pretty quick, because you're looking at all of the nuances that go along with it. So really having a passion for this. And, just like you two have such incredible passion, it just blows me away to see the continued relentless passion you have for this. They need to see that. They need to feel it. What does it look like? What does it sound like? So authenticity is, I think, a very critical piece to knowing your compelling why to it. As far as a skills, humility, being open to learn. not just thinking, like I said, I don't want to be an advice monger. I really don't. I think that by having incredible skills in questioning, and your presence is the present.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So how that is going to be taken by the other side in this relationship matters. I think clear, crisp communication. Which ass end of the elephant are you showing? Because everybody can talk about mentorship, but have a whole different view of what it is.
Yeah.
So really have some coherence around your definition and your task around what is it exactly that you're defining as this thing. So communications. I think also knowing the forest from the trees, or being able to see from the balcony or the dance floor, understanding what it can mean globally and having your vision, but also how to articulate. That's one of I don't have skills in a lot of places, but I have to tell you, I do have a skill of being able to see vision and operation at the same time. We can decide in school we want to have a conference on tiddlywinks, but I also know you damn well better have the coffee at 8 o'clock in the morning at the latest.
Yeah.
So the more you can kind of scaffold between the two, not being a nutty type A type person, but being able to pivot to where you need to go with these things. And, having fun with the whole thing, I really am fascinated by your comment about a number of different kinds of mentors.
Yeah.
Because, if I want to learn something new, I'm going to hang out with somebody that's going to be able to teach me that.
Yeah.
And I'm a picker by handle. That's my whole role. Should be picking right now. In fact, I went by the pick this morning. Just saying. But
thank you for making time for us.
The reality is, if I'm going to learn more about a certain kind of china or type of spoon, I need a mentor. So, trying some of these out in high stakes or low stakes, try a low stake one, see how long you can hang out with that.
Right.
So anyway, I could go on and on with but those would be some of the key characteristics, I would say.
I want to build on just one of the things, all of them I agree with, obviously, but the articulating a clear vision, that's one of the hallmarks of a leader. And it bothers me sometimes that women, I think, although we're very articulate, are almost afraid, or again, maybe too humble to articulate what that clear vision would be, even the vision for the world. And I've shared this before at Razor events, but years ago, 1996 or something, I was at a Canadian Nurse Association convention where we had a futurist who said that nurses and women, but that's kind of the same group in nursing, we're 94% female, they should be articulating a vision that is sane, humane, and ecological. So he called it the she vision. That's stuck with me forever, because now that we're moving into all the climate issues and what I talked about earlier in terms of unkindness and meanness and even evil in the world, and we need to, as female leaders, tap into those resources that are, in some sense, we're the bearers of the next generation. So there's something innate in us about wanting the future to be good for our kids and our grandkids.
Exactly, yeah.
We need to get better at that. And we shouldn't apologize ever for using words like love or compassion or any of those things. Maybe our organizations and society haven't been set up to respond to those, but let's change them and look at things differently in terms of who we are as women leaders creating a vision for the future.
And I think for communication, when you look at how do you know whether your vision's been articulated, everybody all up and down the food chain have to know that vision. So you have to ask the caretaker, do they understand the vision?
Yep.
And what does it mean for them? Where is the passion? If you can move in the heart first rather than the head, like if you can move the heart, the head will come. But if you cannot move the heart and deal with that, it becomes a management thing, a more of a power piece, more of a chicken and egg type of command and control type of thing. So can you move the heart?
Yeah.
And all the way down the food chain and up and up on the other side.
I think you both made such great points that overall women just lead very differently, and that it's okay that we do lead with love and with compassion, and that we need to understand, things differently than how society has been structured with men at the helm for millennia, and that it's okay that we take different approaches. And I think that that's something that, especially as Raise Her, we've been pushing and advocating for so long, is that women think differently and women act differently. And that's good, that we need this variety of thought in the world to make it a better place. And that if we're, not aggressive at the negotiation table, that's still, we're still making progress in one way. Or if we're not doing something that's expected as, how a man would act, that's good and that's okay.
Exactly.
But I think rather than being perceived to be aggressive, you have standards.
Well, exactly.
Strong women have
Yeah.
standards,
Yeah.
but many people look at that aggressive woman
Oh,
as
100%.
dogmatic and over here.
Yeah.
But the point is, strong women have standards.
Exactly. Yeah.
Really interesting.
It shows up in different ways for sure.
Mhm.
So, Mom, knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your younger self, your teenage years, and impart some advice, what would that advice be regarding mentoring and leading and all that sort of thing?
Oh, I would say take your work seriously, whatever that is, but don't take yourself so seriously. Because as a teenager, you think everything is about me. All eyes on. People are going to judge me, and I think if you can laugh at yourself a little bit more and be a little bit more easy with where you make mistakes. When you're 18 and you make a mistake, I don't know, flub a presentation, it's in here all the time.
Yeah.
Now, at the age I'm thinking, how many presentations have I flubbed in the world? Like, I don't even remember them anymore.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was thinking about something the other day. It was a huge crisis when I was in government. I got called into finance on Mother's Day, which happened to be my birthday, at 2:00 on a Sunday afternoon, because it was this big crisis. And I thought to myself, I have no idea what it was. Like, I can't even remember. But at the time, it was huge.
Yeah.
So again, take your work seriously, but it's, remember that you're in, this is again, not dress rehearsal. You're in this for the long term, and it too will pass, and you'll have other experiences. I guess I would say, and I think we did have a fair number of kind of inbuilt mentors, because we had, that cousin and and aunties and uncles and kind of, and you could ask people things, or you could watch what they were doing. But I would say, I would have told my younger self, pair up, find people who are going to support you through, and not just your friends, because your friends have a particular role to play, but you have you need to find other resources that can be really helpful. I had some amazing instructors in my nursing program who remained my friends forever. There's still, one passed recently, but one is like 90 some years old and is still around and is a good friend. So try to keep those people close to you and recognize what they have to offer you. And again, they're not in your life all the time, but you can go to them when you need them. And I would, for sure, I wished that we would have been less competitive. I found even in high school, and when you got to university, it was still very competitive. And it wasn't just competitive against women. It was competitive with whoever was in your class. It was competition. You had to get the best marks. And so, you study an extra 400 hours to get a 90 instead of an 85. But yeah, we did, because, that was kind of the nature of our education at that time. So yeah, those would be some of the things I would tell myself.
Great ones.
Yeah, you make such a good point. Obviously, Skylar and I went to high school together, and I feel like we got paired up in a couple of things. We weren't in all the same classes because I was in the French program, but when we did pair up, I don't know if we did it because we chose to pair up or we were paired together, but I think probably because of that, because we would have been in competition with each other for sure for the best marks. We were like, let's just do it together, because we know that we'll just do a really good job then.
Okay. So couple questions left. This question's for you, Mom. What was the biggest barrier for you to taking on and modeling these leadership behaviors in your life and breaking into senior level roles? And what support could or did you receive to get through it?
I think really who'll cry when you die matters to me. And the work actually doesn't, just like you said, you should put your finger in a pail of water and the ripples go, and you're gone, right? Yeah. You're gone from this work that you think is absolutely the most important piece. So work-life balance, definitely. I mean, I always have been graced with really good health. But honestly, taking care of my babies, and really having that priority around making sure I was present in the right ways. Being just all the challenges of being a working mother, were probably the biggest barriers. Making sure, the pain you have over proper childcare is just gut wrenching,
right?
And I would be with these men. I'm sure their wives probably put their clothes out in the morning. They didn't have to worry about anything, and I had to get to that babysitter in a certain amount of time,
right?
So definitely the work-life balance, and I would say having a supportive husband who picked up a lot of the slack here, and really in my head believing that I could do this and I could. And a messy house is just, dust is just nature's accent. Whatever. Don't try and compete with a stay-at-home mom. You're not going to be able to do that.
That's right.
Oh my God, I'm going to
Get off the cross. We need the friggin' wood, I would say.
Yeah.
It's not going to, you can't have everything. Choose 3
Mm-hmm.
things that you're going to do and do well, and realize those other things aren't. And so priority around family was the biggest challenge for me.
You can
Making
have
sure
everything.
I was just not talking it, walking it.
Yeah.
You can have everything, just not at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think we battle with that even like
Always.
as moms, and this whole view of having to be superwoman these days, where there's so many more expectations of, your kids need to eat this healthy lunch and this gluten-free, and you can't bring peanuts and you can't bring this, and you need to also have like be size 2, and you also need to be in the community, and you also need to have this and
you need to take care of your mental health, and you need to work out, and you need to look fashionable and follow all the TikTok trends and all of that.
So it's just like pick the most impactful ones and the ones that you really care about and that your children you want your children to care about too, because really they're watching you.
Years ago, there was this great book that Auntie Marge, my sister, had 5 kids, worked full time as a social worker. Husband worked full time, very busy household. But somebody gave her this book, which was absolutely perfect for her. She's a very laissez-faire attitude, which helped her get through all of this. But the book was pictures, and I remember a few of them. It's the working woman's child, and it was like pigtails all different directions with hair all over the place. And then the next page was the working woman who shaves just the leg that's going to be shown when you're crossing your legs. And there were a whole bunch of other ones, and I thought, those are all compromises you can make, right? You don't have time to do everything.
I fully only shave the bottom of my legs, and I do not shave the top because I don't need to. I have no time.
I think that comes with being Romanian. There's so many
the Romanian side of you, you're like, okay,
But I do also want to shout out stay-at-home moms, because that is a job in itself that isn't ever seen as a job, but it very much is. And it is a whole new world of value that, when you have mat leaves in your home all day long, and it is a major struggle, and it's not for the faint of heart. So the moms who are stay-at-home moms, good on you. Because that is not easy.
We've talked about it so often that going back to work after a mat leave was like, I can relax now. Like, it's literally hard. Yeah. Okay, Mom, my last question for you is, now that we've talked about how you've both experienced mentorship and growing up with leaders who've supported you and all that kind of thing, what can we do to best support the current and then the next generation of women who are coming up to be the best leaders that they can be for themselves and their communities?
I think we need to encourage them to find like-minded people, mentors, peers, whatever. And again, I'm going to put a plug in for Razor Community, like organizations that don't put a whole bunch of pressure on you. You don't have to become the president if you're going to go there and volunteer. And you can just come and go as it suits you. And you find that support, find people within that organization that you can, pick up the phone and talk to, or have conversations with over social media. You have to always remind yourself that you're not in it by yourself. And that it doesn't have to be just problem situations that you go for help with, but just living life daily is good to have a strong support network, that you don't have to be everything. We just talked about that, like Gwen said, pick 3 things that you're really going to focus on this month or this year or whatever it is, and feel confident in that. Guilt is not a healthy emotion, and it's on us all of the time. And every time you look around, you think, oh, look at what she's doing or he's doing, and I didn't do that. And you know what? Especially when it comes to children, they're pretty resilient, and they will survive and thrive, even if you're not baking the brownies but going to Safeway to buy them, so I think that for me, I would really encourage women to find those networks of support, those communities, and not just within their workplace, although it's helpful if they're there too, but look more broadly, because you actually get different perspectives and different help, and you can vent in different ways and share stories and that kind of thing. And that leadership is a journey, but it can be developed. Like, you're really never there. So invest in your own leadership development. Pick a model of leadership, work on what that tells you about. And most models of leadership will say, find a mentor, but they will also say things like enable others to act. So what are the things that you could do to help others to be successful? That actually develops your own leadership and makes you feel good about yourself. Or challenge the system, right? That's my favorite one. I always say, if it ain't broke, break it. Because we have a lot of challenges in our society that we got to deal with. And so, but pick some of those things that you want to develop every day, because you will, and then I would say journal, so that you keep track of how you're developing as a leader, and that then you know what the next steps are. anyway, there's so much opportunity in terms of like human resources and literature and all those sorts of things. So access what feels good for you. And then don't feel bad if you decide that one evening you're just going to read trash fiction and not continue to grow, because you need to do that too.
Yeah. Or watch trash TV.
And watch trash TV.
Yeah. Gwen, do you have anything to add, or from your perspective?
Decide which mountain you're going to die on.
Oh, yeah.
And again, that's priorities, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to look yourself in the mirror and to make the right decisions. So, we only get one trip around the course, like we've talked about it. So you've got to find something you're totally in love with.
Yeah.
And once you do that, the work becomes play, and you're just in the flow. And, I've been really gifted with that opportunity, that it just fits and you learn, and fail forward.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not failing, you're not growing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, fail forward. I love that.
Yeah.
Moms, this has been absolutely incredible. Do you have anything that you want to add and say or leave our listeners with, and yourselves also, because you'll listen. I know that you that you haven't already said.
I have tremendous hope for the world when I see two of you, you work full time, you're moms, you have volunteer on countless organizations, you spend so many hours on Razor Community. There was always chat about, are we raising selfish kids and, entitled kids? And I'm saying, no, when I see you in your community of people, I recognize how much you're contributing back. So huge hope. And that's why Gwen and I do everything we can to support you, because that's the future that you're unfolding.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
It's quite an honor to be included with you, because that means as our kids, you actually were watching us. And that's tremendous confidence, tremendous pride, and tremendous affirmation in the whole thing of what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very proud of you both. And ditto what Marlene's saying, there's hope here. And you create that tangible, practical aspect of image of hope here. So keep walking your talk.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thanks so much. I mean, we're apples from their trees, so you just got to find the right trees, right? And then you'll be a good apple.
Exactly. If we say so ourselves. Yeah. We turned out pretty okay, I guess. Yeah.
So we're super happy again to have our moms. We always learn so much from them, even though we've heard them from our whole lives. Every time we talk about this, we learn something new.
Exactly.
And really, when we think about supporting leaders and how we can create more leaders, I think it's just taking the first step to be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Try to be a leader, being intentional about your own leadership, and then having others watch you, young, around you, whoever it is, to then be empowered to do the same.
I think one of the best things that I've learned from this process of being in Raise Her with you and starting with our moms is that they encouraged us to be who we are. And they did that leading of like, you can do so much. And they did that sponsoring and that mentorship and all of that. And every single time we have these conversations, I learned something from them. But also, and I mean, I know that we heard it, they learned stuff from us too.
Totally.
And that's what that intergenerational piece is about, is that it doesn't matter your age. It's, dependent on how you show up in the world and how you support others and your life experiences and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, it's a lifetime agreement being a leader. You're never done, like Marlene said, and it's something you're always working on. It's just never a status to be achieved. It's very much a lifelong goal. So
exactly.
Yeah. So as always, we will conclude each episode with some key things we want to leave you with, some actionable steps to take forward to build your leadership journey, to build that of others around you.
Right.
First, what can employers do? Everyone has a role. As we always say, there's employer roles, there's government roles, there's individual role.
It's layered.
So employers, what do you need to ask your employer about or your boss about? First, look into, are they prioritizing an equitable workplace by widening recruitment networks and candidate pools? Have you ever seen blind resume screening? The concept of this is basically they remove the names on resumes so that they aren't biased by a female or male name, a certain cultural name.
Yeah.
And they just look at the straight background and experience. I think that's really interesting. And I've never done that myself in the roles that I've had. I think we should.
I think that's
Very
a really
cool.
good practice. Yeah.
Yeah. Supporting internal growth opportunities. Do they they can have continued professional development? Do they have leadership skill building at all stages of your journey, not just once you become a manager?
Stages.
Do they have equitable retention and promotion policies? Look into it. Ask, check. Are your employers promoting workplace flexibility? And do they enable all employees to find an appropriate work-life balance? Can you work remotely? Can you pick up your kids without being shamed, early or getting like, why are you leaving so early on time? Ask what's involved or when they're launching their DEI strategy. That's a big one.
Yeah.
I think just talk to your boss. DEI meaning diversity, equity, inclusion strategy. And suggest a mentorship program. We heard earlier in the last episode, like there's not a lot of organizations with mentorship programs. So maybe you should have one. And we know that the results, you can take them from this episode.
Yeah.
The stats are showing more likely people to be promoted, more retention. There are benefits for businesses to have mentorship programs. So,
and if you need some help, you can always reach out to us.
Yes, let us know. We'll arm you with all the reasons why and the stats.
Yeah.
So that's employers. What can policymakers do? Lobby, look for, and vote for those in government that support pay equity laws, that dismiss salary history questions for job applicants, that pass local initiatives that promote parental leave. Yes, please. Universal childcare, check, and flex time policies. These are all things we need to be successful, to be sustainable, to thrive as women.
I feel like we also need to pass like a salary transparency thing. I think they have it in Ontario and in BC so that it is just strictly transparent and like, this is the job and this is what I'm hiring for. And I mean, very much so impacts women because so often when I saw just like a meme the other day that was like, I went in for a job and I thought I was really badass because I asked for $100,000 and they offered me 110 and I was like, woo. And then I found out that all the men were making 150.
Right.
Like,
so what is the range?
Yeah.
But anyway.
I hate when they're also like, what do you want to make? And I'm like, well, what is the salary? And they're like, well, what do you want to make? Like,
just don't waste people's time.
$4 million. I don't know. Like, that's what I would like to make.
I know.
Anyways, last but not least, because this episode is truly our bread and butter of what we advocate for on the daily through our programs and education and all that sort of thing, we have some challenges for you as the individual. After this episode, create a personal action plan by jotting down specific actions you can take to support women in leadership. Commit to attending workshops or webinars on gender equity, joining mentorship programs, we have one, and advocating for women's advancement within your workplace and community. Of course, expand your knowledge, explore books and articles and podcasts that delve deeper into the topic of women in leadership. You can start with titles like, and we'll put some of these in the show notes, Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, Grit by Angela Duckworth, Lead from the Outside by Stacey Abrams, Radical Candor by Kim Scott, and of course, Dare to Lead by Brené Brown. And this last one leans on embracing some vulnerability, but reach out to connect with someone you admire, someone you want to learn from, someone who you think is an overall badass, and invite them for a coffee or a lunch to learn from their experiences, seek mentorship, and explore potential collaboration opportunities.
So there you have it. Thank you so much for joining us today for another episode as we confronted these terrifying but real life statistics that impact women and girls on the daily. Please share this episode, rate, and subscribe wherever you're listening, and stay tuned for more ways to make a positive impact. Together, we can make the world a little less scary for women and girls.
Follow us on Instagram at RaiseHerCo and at Scaries.podcast, and on TikTok at RaiseHerCo. Remember, change starts with awareness and action, which we are doing here today. As always, take our challenge. Thank you for being a part of the Scaries community and making this world a little less scary to exist as a woman. Bye.